Welcome to another video. It's been a while. I've been down with Manfrotto for a few weeks and we've had this blanket grey cloud here in the UK, which is still, as you can see from around me here, is still overcast and a bit nasty, but Christmas is gone just, and I just felt the need to get out, and shoot something. So I've come up to Dartmoor. On the way up it was blanket cloud, but there was a few glimmers of hope on the horizon, which now I've got up here, they've kind of disappeared, but I'm kind of just hoping, fingers crossed, that something might happen. It's a couple of hours away from sunset. The sun, remember the sun? But yeah, there's a few breaks in the clouds. I'm trying to position myself so I can get a little bit of interest in the sky, because it's not very interesting, as you can see. It's pretty flat, very flat light. The only saving grace is I'm shooting black and white today, so I've got my Chroma 6x17 film camera, and I'm going to shoot some panoramics, and I'm shooting black and white. I've got some Ilford Delta 100, but I've also got a couple of rolls of HP5 400 as well. So I'm kind of thinking probably going for something a bit more contrasty with the 400 speed HP5. Should give me a little bit more of a, you know, kind of a gritty image. Hopefully make something out of this light. Got to do something. I've been stuck indoors for weeks on end, no camera time, so it's about time I got the cameras up and try and sort of compose something. So I'm up at a place called Saddle Tor. I don't know if you can see in the background there, move my camera out the way, this famous little tree up at Saddle Tor. Saddle Tor itself is just over to my right hand side, but this tree is part of the Tor here. And over that way you've got Hay Tor, and then you've got Hang Tor, which is one of the biggest tors over that way. Now I usually shoot this from this side, but I think today that's blanket cloud over this way, it's not looking very interesting. But back this way towards Hay Tor, there's some nice cloud formations on the horizon, so I'm going to try and get a shot from behind the tree. So I'll spin you around in a bit and show you what I'm thinking. Something a bit different. I haven't shot from that side before, and I haven't shot it in panoramic, so should be quite a change. The sky is actually breaking up a little bit above me, so I'm kind of fingers crossed. So I might get a little burst of light, that's what I'm hoping. So this is my composition from this side. Slightly different, like I said, from what I usually shoot here, from the other side. Now I'm shooting panoramics, so I'm going to get all this rock on the left hand side, the tree, and out here to this distance over here. Now you can see up the top of there we've got Hay Tor just above this rock, but I want to try and get this so I've got separation for the tree that sticks into the sky, and also gets that Tor and this part of this Tor that I'm standing on here on the left hand side, almost kind of frames the tree. So that's my composition. As you can see, the cloud is it's not looking that interesting, so I'm going to have to try and sort of do something with this. I might wait a little bit, see if it breaks up a bit. We shall see. Now I'm throwing caution to the wind. I haven't loaded any film yet, so I'm going to see if I can compose a shot first, and then I'll look about loading some film. It's pointless kind of loading film if I'm not going to shoot anything. So at the moment I'm just toying with the composition first, and then we shall see what happens. So let's get it composed first. I need to stand back there somewhere, so I'll go out a shot in a minute. So as you can see, I've got quite high up. I'm stood on a rock, and the tripod's at full height and extended as well, just to try and get this in. But I've got quite a nice tight crop, even though I'm on 90mm. It's quite tightly cropped, which is good. I didn't want too much wasted space, especially on the right hand side. So yeah, I'm just going to get my focus in. It's just started to drizzle as well, which is great. Okay, so surprisingly, that looks very nice. Like I said, I'm shooting black and white. I don't think I'd even consider shooting colour in these conditions. It's just very flat. But with black and white, especially with a contrasty black and white film, it should it should look quite nice, especially with all this stone. The sky, yes, it's not that interesting at the moment, but there is some bands of light and shade in the cloud, so I'm hoping it's quite tightly cropped as well. There's not a lot of sky in the shot. It's the tree is the main focus, and obviously the Tor either side. So I'm hoping this should be okay, but I think I'm pretty confident in loading a roll of film up. So let's get that done and then wait and see what happens. So there's a couple of things I want to try out today, a couple of new bits and pieces that I've got. I've got a new lens for the panoramic. This is a 135 Nikkor lens, f5.6. Slightly tighter crop on this, but I bought this primarily really more for architecture, but I've spotted a few compositions that this might work on, so hopefully I get to use this today as well. The other thing I've got to try is, if you can see this there, is a center filter. Now, center filters, let me just put this back in the bag. There is a lot of people that say you don't need a center filter. Personally, yes and no. I've taken shots that haven't needed it with a 90mm, anything sort of wider than 105mm. Ideally, you'd use a center filter for, because you get like a thing called light fall off at the edges of the picture, because it's such a long strip of film. The light struggles to cover the whole image circle, so you get like light fall off. So basically, you get a really bright center, and it falls off to almost like a vignette on the edges. So this filter combats that by, it's like a central neutral density spot in the middle, and it graduates out. So when you use this, it kind of balances the exposure up. Now, like I said, I've taken shots where I haven't needed it. It hasn't been that apparent, and especially on the 90mm. It's more pronounced with things like slide film. I've noticed it on a few of them, and a few of my black and white shots where the light conditions are a bit kind of sketchy. You do get this kind of fall off, and it is correctable to a point in Photoshop or Lightroom, but I've bitten the bullet and bought one of these things. They're not cheap, but it just makes life easier, less processing time, and it gives a much more balanced image. So I'll be using this now with my 90mm. The 135 I shouldn't need it, but definitely the 90mm I think I'll probably put it on most of the time. You allow about a stop and a half to 2 stops of exposure compensation for this, because it's quite dark in the centre. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Now, I'm shooting 400 speed film today, so it's should give me fairly usable shutter speed still. So I'm not going to go into reciprocity failure or anything I wouldn't have thought today. But yeah, 2 little bits of kit to try out, so we should see what difference it makes. So in terms of filtration for this shot, I'm just using the center filter today. I'm not going to put a grad or anything on the sky. I'm going to try and meter off a mid-tone. There's lots of mid-tones here in the rocks. They're nice grey rocks, and I want to sort of boost up the sky a bit, so I want to probably underexpose slightly, just to give me a bit more detail in that sky. Even though you can't see the detail at the moment, it looks very bland and white at the moment. So I'm going to shoot at f32, all focused up, but f32, f22 is just about in focus, but in the middle distance there's some rocks behind the tree there, so it's slightly fallen off on focus there. So I'm going to bump it up to f32, which should give me nice depth of field right the way through to the shot, right over to Saddle Tor in the distance. So f32, that's all set, focus is set. So I'll just take a couple of meter readings now. I'm taking a couple of readings off the sky as well, so my sort of base reading's around half a second. I think that should be a good base reading. So I've got to allow a stop and a half for the center filter. I could allow 2 stops, which brings me down to 2 seconds, but I want to underexpose slightly for this sky, try and keep a bit more detail in the sky. So I think I'm going to go for a second exposure for the first one. Conditions are deteriorating behind me, so I think it's now or never. We've got a little bit of play in the light in the foreground in the actual shot itself, so there's a few bands of colour, or tone if you like, different tones, so that hopefully that should come out quite nice. So I'm going to start off with a half second, I think. Just double check, the light's changed a little bit since I did my meter readings just now. Let's have a look. So yeah, an eighth of a second. I've come up to an eighth of a second, so a little bit brighter, believe it or not. That's my base reading, so eighth, quarter, half a second to allow for this center filter. So that should be good. So I think it's going to come in a bit wet in a bit, so I think it's now or never. I'm not going to get any direct sunlight, which is a shame, but hey ho, I'm out with the camera, and that's the main thing. So oh, it feels good to expose some film. So was it worth using a center filter? Yes, indeed it was. It's made this exposure more balanced. It's got rid of that sort of hot spot in the middle and the vignetting on the edges. So overall, yes, it's made a difference. The only downside is it does increase the exposure by a couple of stops, but I'm really happy with the results from it. So while I'm waiting for a little break in the sky, which I don't think is going to happen, but it is changing. I'm just waiting. I've got last exposure for this composition here. It is changing very, very mildly, but it might be just enough to boost up this scene. There's some nice bands of light and dark in the cloud at the moment, so I'm hoping that kind of picks up. So while I'm waiting, by the time you've watched this video, by the time this is out, I've been in the midst. Even though I've been off with man flu and suffering, I've been busy in the background. I've been rebuilding my website. It's long overdue. I've been meaning to do it for so long. Years, in fact, years. I've been with the same website. My old website was okay, but it wasn't that functional, wasn't really doing much for me. So I've changed providers, web providers, and completely redesigned and rebuilt my website. So the new site's going to have a store, so you'll be able to buy prints and all kinds of bits and pieces as I go through. I've got a blog page on there as well, which I'm going to update with news and things like that, and probably some like camera reviews, all that type of thing. But yeah, so by the time you watch this, it should be out. I'll put a link in the description for my website. I don't know if I can link here. I'll try, but so please take a look. Let me know what you think. There's a newsletter section on there as well. So if you ping your email across on that, I'll keep you up to date with bits and pieces. There's new galleries on there, all my new work, my film work especially, which I didn't have on my old site. So it's nice to almost start from scratch. So I've completely redesigned and put new stuff on there. So it's all singing, all dancing now. So yeah, let me know what you think. So I'm going to take this last frame because I don't think it's going to change much now. It's changed a little bit above the tree here, so hopefully this last frame will be okay. And then I want to try and see if I can test out this 135mm lens on another composition as well. That's what I'm hoping. So the light's starting to fade now, so I'm going to head back up to the actual Saddle Tor itself. Try and get a shot with my 135mm lens. I'm not sure yet until I get up there which way I'm going to face, but it's over to the west. The clouds aren't looking that nice. Over to the east, they got a little bit more definition, so we'll get up there and set up and see what we can find. So I've been hunting for a second composition, but I'm struggling with the light fading fast. I found one, but it's very minimalist, so I'm not sure if this is going to work. And we're down to quite long exposures at the moment. No filters on this one. But I'm shooting at f32 with the 135mm lens. So I'm not sure if this is going to work. I'm down to about 4-second exposure at the moment. This is even with 400 speed film. There's two things I've noticed about this lens. One is it's a lot brighter than my 90mm to compose with. It's an f5.6 lens, so it's only one stop brighter than my 90mm, which is an f8. But yeah, it makes a big difference. The other is it's not as compact as I thought it was going to be, as in terms of composition wise. So you've got to try and find stuff that, this is probably not the best sort of situation to try it out in. I was going to try some architectural shoots at some point where the tighter crop would be a little bit better than my 90mm. But yeah, so far so good. We shall see what the results are like when I get them back, if these come out. So I've got this little tree here which is kind of framing Saddle Tor in the background. There's not a lot else going on to the left and right of it, so it's quite a minimalist shot. A lot of kind of empty space, which isn't ideal, but I'm hoping this tighter crop with this lens, 135mm lens, might work. Nothing wrong with a bit of minimalism. Well, the light was dropping and I was in a bit of a rush. I'm not really sure if this composition works. It's okay, but there's a lot of wasted space on the left and right. I think with hindsight it might have been better to go for a 16:9 crop, or even a square crop around the actual main subject. But exposure wise and the lens performed really well, so overall I'm happy with it. Okay, so not the best conditions to shoot in today, but it was nice to get out and shoot something. I'm pretty pleased with that tree image first. Again, like I say, it's shot from a different angle and in a different format than I've tried before. I've been there many times before, but it's always nice to try something new. Got a chance to try out that centre filter and this 135mm lens as well. This second shot, not too keen on it, to be honest. I don't think it's worked as well as the first, but like I say, it's sometimes it's just about getting out there and shooting stuff, and you know, actually not stagnating. It's very easy to kind of you know, especially over Christmas, you kind of sit around eating and drinking and, you know, basically wasting time. And it's nice sometimes to get out, a bit of fresh air, and put all this into practice again. So anyway, I'm going to pack up now. I hope you've enjoyed this one. So it's nice to be back. Please, like I say, check out that website. Let me know what you think. And for now, I'm going to get back to the warmth of the van. But I'll hopefully see you in the next one.